Hi, I'm Paul Hughes-Barlow, and I'm going to talk a bit about invoking or evoking spirits. It's a big question in magic, and what is the value of either invoking or evoking? And the problem is that either methods, invoking or invoking, kind of suggests that these spirits are somewhere else in the universe. They're not here. They could be anywhere you like, but I, as a magician, have to contact them, and I have to be able to control them, and I have to have this space all around me. You often see in the films they have this like a circle around them with divine names written on there and a pentagram or something like that in the middle, and the magician has to stay in the circle, and the spirit has to be outside the circle, and the spirit cannot come in, because if the spirit comes in, it's a big disaster. Now, the problem is that none of this actually works. I've never drawn a circle around me. I don't even do this idea of protection of the four directions and things like this. Because the reality is that we're infinite beings. If we're infinite beings, how on earth can be constricted into something tiny, this tiny little 6-foot circle? In strategic terms, what would be the value of placing yourself in a tiny little space while allowing your enemies to have complete freedom to be all around you? It's bizarre. It doesn't make sense. No one in the right mind would do it. And yet there's a lot of intelligent magicians out there who think that is precisely how it's supposed to be done. I don't know how to convince them. The thing is that spirits, angels, entities, beings, call them what you will, they're there. They're in infinite space too, and in infinite space, any point can be the centre of infinite space. There is no sort of one further away than another. We are amidst spirits, entities, beings, all these things. They're here. They're around us. For the most part, we ignore them. There are good reasons to sometimes. Sometimes there's things we need to get on with our life. Sometimes we're with people who don't believe in these things. There are people who think it's a load of rubbish, and this is the last thing you want going on in your life, is these beings and entities turning up and saying, "Hey Paul, hey Fred, hey Anne, hey here." So this idea of evoking or invoking is something that isn't there becomes there. And they says, well, if you don't, you have to all know all the different levels of the boss above that spirit, the boss above that spirit, and the boss above that spirit. So that if the first time it doesn't work, well, okay, right, you're not coming, right, I want to get the next boss up, and we'll tell him, and he'll make you come, and you do that, and then the next boss, that doesn't work, so you get the next boss, and then the next boss. In Goetic invocation, there's this idea that the spirits can be tortured into appearance. So if the spirit is associated with water, say, then you'd have some fire in order to burn something of the spirit to torture him. Well, it's medieval. I mean, that's where the invocations come from. It's a kind of, in the medieval times, the world was a scary place. They didn't know where germs came from. They didn't know how sickness manifested. They didn't have any kind of idea of cleanliness or all these sort of things. And it's dark and it's dingy and everything was out to get you. People still live in that world, schizophrenics and other people who just live in this kind of fear. Someone will get you, the bogeyman will get you. In reality, there isn't really much of that goes on. What does go on, of course, is this idea of black magic and people who can harm you in some way through magical or spiritual means, and these things do go on. But for the most part, spirits are benign. They just want to get on with their life, and it's a bit like, if sometimes you're really busy and the phone call, telephone rings, you don't want to answer it. You're busy doing something else. The phone might keep on ringing, but you just generally ignore it because there's better things to do. And the same with spirits. They've got better things to do. So, back to this circle. Um, you put yourself a tiny little pinpoint in the whole universe, and then all the spirits go around you, and this is considered a way of control. This is actually a total lack of control, because you have fear of going outside of your little circle, doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing, not having the right magical equipment, all these sort of things. They don't, they're not needed. But there's plenty of books that tell you they do. And wouldn't it be great if we could just not have this idea of that the way to torture or control things is through these magical rituals that basically don't work, they never really have done. Some people say they do, well, no, you're wrong, Paul, and they work for me, well, fine. But, you live in your small sphere that says that this magical operation, can only be done on a Tuesday when there's a month with an R in it, or the moon is in this position, or I don't know. There's just all these constrictions that where and when and how things can be done, and in reality, they just don't exist. I've walked down the streets in a Saturday afternoon, in a busy Saturday in Brighton, the High Street, and I've seen spirits. I see spirits sitting quietly contemplating. I've seen spirits in all kinds of situations. I've seen the same spirits in different situations, at different times of the day and night as well. So there is none of these restrictions that people think there has to be on where and when they can find the spirits. You don't go to the spirits. The spirits don't come to you. It's just this state of being that allows this communion or interaction to go on. And for the most part, this interaction is subtle. It's there's not any kind of major. There's no big change in temperature. There's no kind of things. The light changes or it gets dark or something like this. It's just a kind of awareness, and one of the best senses of spiritual work and spirits around you is actually your body. Remarkably enough, your body is not this just kind of lump of excrement or something that some people think. It's a living, alive organism that in many ways is more sensitive to spirits and spiritual work than your own awareness, because it's the body that feels, it's the body that experiences. In my own journey, it was the sensations in the body, and I still get them, of pains or I've got one right now, of things moving around or things changing. It's the body that has the awareness. And if you're not in tune with your body, if you're not looking after your body, if you're not respecting your body will not be able to help and give the information that you need. So we don't have to feel that we're in some way subservient to spirits and that we're down here and they're up there and all these sort of things. It's more important to have this kind of respectful understanding that they have an entitlement to live and go about their business just as we expect our own entitlement to go about our own business. So forcing spirits doesn't generally work either. There are circumstances, but we don't need to go into them here. It's just a matter of, if the spirits want to work with us, they will appear. Now, I think for many of us who have an awareness or are attracted to the spiritual realm, the spirits are already there. They're already communicating with us. We just don't listen, or we're not appreciating, or we're looking over here where one actually is here, or just right in front of our faces. So rather than think you have to do this, or have to go there, or have to be this, or have to do that, it is just to be open and aware. It is possible. Spirits can slightly overtake a person sometimes, but only if that person allows them to, or they absent themselves from their own awareness and their own body, so that spirits can come in. Clearly, this is not a smart thing to do, although you'd be surprised how many people think that is a good thing to do. And of course, I don't advocate that. So let's take away this fear. Let's take away this kind of idea that they're out to get you, or they will harm you in some way, because most of the time they don't. it's, you know, the physical pains of the body is actually a sign that something needs to be done. In the same way that if you have this feeling of hunger, then the smart thing to do is to eat something. If you're thirsty, the smart thing to do is to drink something. It's not rocket science. So it's understanding these pains and sensations in the body and knowing that they're a sign that something needs to be done or corrected. So, if magical invocation doesn't work, or evocation, I can't remember which way is which, it doesn't really matter because they're pretty irrelevant anyway. I've never had to do them, and my colleagues I work with have never done that kind of thing either. So how do you find some ways of working with spirits anyway? There's several things you can do. One of the first is to be religious in some sense. By that I mean that you need to believe in God, whoever you think God is, Allah, Jehovah, but not Buddha as a person, but just generally have this awareness of something greater than you. Spirits like people who read religious books. Again, it's not a matter necessarily of believing in God, but it is good to read the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the I Ching, basically any book that's recognized as throughout the world as being a spiritual book. Spirits like people who read these books. Again, if you read the Bible, you don't have to be Christian. If you read the Quran, you don't have to be Muslim. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, you don't have to be a Hindu. It's just the respect and understanding and awareness of opening yourself up to something greater than you. That's the most important thing. You don't generally have to fast. You generally have to be vegetarian, or you don't have to be teetotal. It's all these things are just kind of ways of torturing yourself and giving yourself a harder time than you need to. So that's the number one thing, is to read religious, spiritual books. The other good thing to do is to hang around with people who are also having these experiences anyway. This is what I did with my teacher, Pandit Maharaj. I was spending 12 hours a day with him pretty much every day for most of the time, over 20 years. And if you spend any amount of time with someone, things will rub off. And it was purely being in his presence and trying to hang on in there very often that the spiritual experiences arose. I have Pandit Maharaj is now passed on, so about 3 years ago, and what I do have are my colleagues who are all spiritually aware. They're all very different, they all have different beliefs and ideas and methods, but I work with all of them on spiritual work, and they all see spirits, and the way they see spirits varies as well. Some are more visual, some are more tactile, it's a feeling kind of thing. Some people generally just hear spirits, and the way that they perceive and hear or feel or see them varies too. But we can all sort of, sometimes there's 2 or 3 of us together, and one person will see the spiritual entity in one way, another person will see another aspect to it, and a third person will see some slightly different sort of thing. And it's not that any one of us are wrong, it's just that we have this different mode of expression, perception, and way of dealing with them. So we all have to develop our own way of dealing with spirits too. And it's through this sort of interaction between all 3 of us and the way the spirits want to work, because sometimes spirits have more an affinity with one person than another, or there's all just kind of every way is different basically. None of us do any kind of sort of any rituals or magical weapons or or anything else. Sometimes I'm talking on email, sometimes it's on instant messenger, sometimes on the phone, sometimes the person I'm working with is in the room with me. It doesn't seem to make a difference actually, whichever way it works. Sometimes it's text messages on the mobile phone. And we find the answers and work with spirits, and there's a transformation that happens with our own awareness. There's a moment when you kind of think, oh yeah, the work is done, things have cleared, the spirit changes in some form, consciousness changes, and there's a greater feeling of expansion of awareness and being. And then that's the work's done, and thank you very much. And then, and then we get on with our lives and do whatever we've been doing before then. And this can happen at any time of the day and night as well. So this awareness thing is the most important thing. One way you can do to expand your awareness is to feel where is your body. And it's not necessarily right here. It can be a bit further out, and then say, it's like take your awareness out of your body, the edge of your body, to 100 yards, and then take it to 200 yards, and then 1,000 yards, a mile, 10 miles, 100 miles, above and below you as well, through the earth. And the more you expand your awareness out, you'll find that there is basically no edge, no limit to your awareness, and you can extend it 1,000,000 miles. Billion miles, thirds of it. And when you do that, you tend to get this feeling of peace and calm come over you. And this is one of the best ways, actually, because if you're like 1,000,000,000 miles as opposed to a 6-foot circle, if you're this being that is 1,000,000,000 miles in all directions, how can you be harmed? How can you be limited? How can you be controlled? You can't. It's free to do and live the life that you want to. So when you feel these things, a good idea is to expand your awareness out. That generally improves things. There again, this is just a general introduction to how the spiritual work happens and how you work with spirits. So feel free to contact me. And we'll see, every person's situation is different. And we can see how we can better help you to gain understanding and awareness of spirits and how you can work with them.